What is good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Bluebloods official podcast of FCS Football Central on SI. Your host, as always, man, Zach McKinnell, joined by my co-host, Coach Leroy Frederick, man. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Early Friday stream. I'm telling you, we're like the only channel that streams this early. Everybody else y'all can catch after 7 p.m. Super late. But listen, man, shout out to our guy, Zoe. Man, killing it with his new podcast, man. Make sure to go subscribe to his channel, man. He's been killing it with recruiting. Him, Scotty, Josh, and BJ just launched the show, man. It was a great on National Signing Day night. So make sure to go check all those guys out, man. But Coach, you've been busy, man. Nobody else in the business has a co-host that is as busy as you. Man, how National Signing Day go for you, man? And what's been on the plate since?
I don't know if that's good or not there, B, but National Signing Day was really good for us, really good to us. The thing with us is that we had a lot of guys that we signed already on campus in that first deal, and this was our chance to announce them to the the fan base, the alumni, and the world, so to speak. So we were really excited about it. Had a great turnout at our event. Went really well. Now, Coach Thomas was nice enough to give us a few days off. From here to Kansas to Florida to Kansas to back, it kind of catches up with you. And I just want to give you a shout out for holding it down, doing your thing over at the Senior Bowl last week. I don't know if anybody has a co-host that works as hard as you in the business when we're talking about knowing all the names, all the numbers, all that stuff, man. That's one of the things that I really admire about you. Keep going. Keep carrying me as we head toward that finish line of being one of the first guys to receive that plaque from YouTube. Help us out, now.
Hey, well, we're gonna try to get there. But man, Coach, I'll say this: looking at y'all's recruiting class, man, y'all weren't playing around with the corners, man. Some tall corners. I really like Patrick Kent, and then also was it Miller, Damian Miller. Yep. Man, those two guys look everything like the part, man. It was kind of a change of pace. Man, I heard Coach said talking last night on G's show, man. Go check, make sure to check that out. That man, he looked around at the wide receiving rooms of some of these other SWAC schools and said, man, these 5'10" corners ain't going to cut it. We had to get some outside.
Not on an every down basis. And, that's one of the things we put emphasis on was to try to match it, not just with size, but, athletic ability as well. It's fine to go find those guys that match up height-wise, but if they can't turn and run, if they can't come up and make a play on the run, what have you done? So we were real sticklers about that. Did a great job of being able to find size, and now it's just develop and hold on because the landscape.
Yeah, that's a fact.
All those guys are underclassmen, so most of those guys have 3 years. So now, like I said, it's just develop and hold on now for those guys, for us.
Really, really like Nair Graham, too, kid out of Lackawanna, JUCO All-American. Yeah. Kid's going to be a freak. I'll say that.
He looks the part. He looks the part.
That's a kid that I think a lot of people are going to know very, very soon. Also, two really talented kids being brought in for the quarterback battle, man. I really like Andre Washington's potential. Big signing, man, 6'4" kid. Also, Jalen Tolbert. Howard fans were really screaming for him last year. We'll say that. And then also, too, I don't think people know about this guy much, man, but Reggie Davis was a starter at Chattanooga. And first team All-SoCon selection coming into the running back room. Listen, Alcorn's known for running backs. Everyone's talked about it. Reggie Davis is going to be the next guy up, man. And also, too, to bring in Minor with him, one of the top JUCO guys. Yep, in the country. Fingers crossed on that one. But, man, listen, Reggie Davis is legit, man. He had a really, really good year last year for a Chattanooga team who ran the ball really, really well. So,
And the beauty about Reggie is Reggie's in Lorman. Reggie's not we've had good ones on paper that were waiting to finish classes elsewhere, things like that. Things kind of happened. They weren't able to come. The beauty about Reggie is in Lorman, Mississippi. So, really excited about that deal.
So, Coach, man, SWAC or HBCU year in review, man. We can start with the MEAC and then move our way to the SWAC, man. looking back, preseason predictions, man, I don't think anybody has South Carolina State coming out outside of our guy Timothy Rosario, who went out on the biggest limb of all time, and he nailed it. So got to give Timothy his credit for picking South Carolina State.
Shout
Um,
out.
yeah, what a pick there. But coach, who was the let's just say probably our biggest surprise was South Carolina State for both of us, man. 9-3, undefeated in conference, first year for Chinnis Berry. Biggest disappointment.
It had to be for me, and don't be surprised by my biggest disappointment. To me, it had to be Norfolk State. You know, Coach O had been into the fire, thought he had got it to where he needed it. They had a great showing, a game they should have won, the kickoff deal, and they came up a little short. And I thought at that point that he had gotten to, you know, what it was he wanted to do with that program. And they had me all feeling good about it after that first game with FAM, the kickoff classic. And then I think the wheels just kind of, I won't say fell off, started to fall off. And I just think, you know, they never were able to regain footing. So for me, it'd have to be them.
I'm torn on this one. 6 wins isn't terrible when you're Morgan State, but I think it was just, coach. I mean, they were a little bit better offensively, like marginally, but to be that bad again offensively and waste another great defense, because I understand everyone just looks at the stat just at face value, right? And they did give up 50 to South Carolina State at the end of the year, but that's after they were on the field all year and injuries started to pile up, and it just started to just downhill spiral on them. That defense to start the year came out firing, and until those injuries started to pile up, it was just they had the defense to win so many games, coach, and it was just again no quarterback play. They couldn't run the football. Offensive line couldn't block. And I think they had a little bit of talent at wide receiver, coach, but when you don't have a quarterback, that's a dependent position. And you can have Larry Fitz out there. If you don't have a quarterback that can get on the ball, it doesn't matter. And so for Morgan was a disappointment in that aspect. But coach, I think it's Howard a bit. And it was a team that maybe I wasn't high on. But coach, you're coming off a Celebration Bowl championship, 1-4 in conference, 4-8 overall. You finished 5th in the MEAC. If you're Larry Scott and that staff, man, that's got to be chalked up as one of the bigger disappointments in FCS football. And I understand you had to replace a quarterback. You had to replace both offensive tackles, one of which is in the NFL right now, and the other one is at a P5, P4 school. You had to replace some talent on the defensive line, linebacker, but coach, they had talent, right? Had a good bit of all MEAC selections coming in. They had arguably one of the best, most talented running back cores in HBCU football with Eden James and those guys. And coach, they just consistently disappointed. Yeah. Every single week. It was just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. I mean, coach, they barely squeaked by Mercyhurst. That's how bad it got during the season.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Howard, man. Like, coach, because let's just be honest. Any team that wins the Celebration Bowl, regardless of how much you lose, coming back and only winning one conference game is a disappointment.
Yeah, and they were, you know, that's a program you got to realize they were a couple plays away from winning the Natty that year, and you know the expectations had to be through the roof. So yeah, to come back and get one, I think really has to be a disappointment in that coach's office. But again, we've said it before, time and time on this show. If you don't have the trigger guy in place, it's going to be tough. But to your point, you didn't have the trigger guy, but you had the guys that he could turn around and hand it to, which should have lessened the burden on the quarterback. So I can see, you know, your pick. But I like mine better. Mine just never took off. And it had the whole conference saying either they are better or FAM is worse. And I went with Norfolk's better. And it just, you know, never materialized, so to speak.
You know, I look back because, Coach, you know this. There's momentum plays so much. I guess momentum's such a big factor in college football, and no one really it's not a tangible thing, right? It's not something you could quantify or
It's
anything,
not,
but
but it's real.
yeah. How different does Norfolk's season go if they beat FAMU week 0?
Man, that's a good question because they ended up getting their quarterback back, but
Yeah,
what was that
but
after
he
the
didn't
5th
play.
game or something like that? Yeah,
Yeah, he
didn't
decided not
play.
to come back.
Yeah. So if they win that game, does he come back? I think so, because at that point they've got to be riding high. They've got to be feeling really good about themselves, really good about the program, and to be that close to winning that game. I think at that point, if they win that, they've got to be, their chest has got to be out, and they got to be feeling really good. Now the quarterback wants to come back, and here we go. I think it's a different season for them, but you're right. Momentum and the mindset, because I'm sure they win that, like, yeah, we back, we rolling. They lose that, somebody somewhere on that bus is saying, "Oh, here we go again," and that kind of thought takes over and seeps in.
Coach, I'm looking at their schedule here. You lose to FAM by 1 point. Then you go to Sacred Heart on October 5th. You lose 10-3, 7-point loss. You lose to Townsend at home by 5. You lose to Morgan on the road by 1.
It's a lot of close games.
We talked about it after the FAMU game. How many games over, a 3-year span with Dawson Odoms were they 1 score away? And Coach, this is a game of inches, man. And
Yep.
1 or 2 of those games go the opposite direction. Do we even get Mike Vick to Norfolk?
Right. You're right. That's a great
Dawson
question.
Odoms will still be there if he
Yeah.
wins 3 of those like 8 games he lost by 1 score.
Yeah. That's real. As the administration, do you look at that and say, okay, he's close, let's give him another chance, or this is about as good as it's going to get? And I think they had got to the point to where they were like, this is about as good as it's going to get, time to move on. Now, I'll ask you this before we move to the next. With so many close losses and it being right there about to turn around, is there any pressure on Coach Vick and his staff to get it over the hump this first year?
No, I don't think the first year. I do think so you don't want to go out there and look like Valley going 1-11 or Delaware State going 2-10. You don't want that. But Coach, your first year, you win 4 or 5 games. I think that's okay. And also, too, I do think it does matter who you beat to a point. Because let's just be honest, Coach, a 5-7 record. Like let's just take if you're a head coach at Southern, a 5-7 record, but you beat Jackson or beat Grambling. It's a whole lot different than 5-7, and you lose those 2 big games, and your only wins are like Valley, Alabama A&M, UAPB, Texas Southern. You know what I mean? So I do think it matters what games he looks good, and also too, you can't get blown out. 5-7 with a few close losses to NCCU, South Carolina State is a whole lot different than losing 52-0 in those games. So I do think that matters a little bit. But at the end of the day, I agree with Mr. Campbell in the chat. Bad teams find a way to lose close games. And at the end of the day,
that's good.
Because, Coach, I'll say this. 1 or 2 times is a coincidence. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times is a pattern.
Yeah.
And that's the DNA of the team.
I mean, that quote that Mr. Campbell just had, and then you with the, that's a pattern. Yeah, because, on the other side of that coin, the team that's playing close can say that they played down, so
yeah,
it could go both ways. I'm with it.
Well, because here's to both ways. And shout out to our guy, David Jackson, in the chat, man. If Norfolk's a bad team for losing close games, was Southern a good team for winning all those close games?
Don't get me started on that
one. Loaded question here, only 15 minutes into the show. But if we're going to say Norfolk's bad for losing close games, Southern had the winning culture to pull out all those close games.
They should have went collectively and went and bought lottery tickets every freaking week, because at the end of the day, Mr. Campbell, there's other historians in the chat, or other historians will see this see the show. Name me another football season where a team won like 3 overtime or double overtimes in the same season. They did it, not to take anything away from them, but how many times is that going to actually happen? So, again, I'll leave that question right there where it's at. That's just, my answer to that one. But anytime you win 3-4 games in double overtime or overtime in a season, man, go get some lottery tickets because Lady Luck is with you.
Well, also too with the Southern, and I guess this is a perfect transition to the SWAC with the Southern, I guess aspect of this. Let's not forget McNeese was a close game there for a while. That was a game they easily could have won if it weren't for 2 special teams mistakes, right? They were up like 7-0 for like damn near the whole game.
What game? I'm sorry.
The McNeese game.
Oh yeah, the first one. Yeah.
They had a chance to win that game.
Yeah.
But then, you look, they beat PV in overtime. That's your first overtime win. You beat Texas Southern in overtime, another overtime win. Coach, Alcorn and Southern was a close game till the fourth quarter. I consider that a close game. They won by 10, but that was a 1-score game up until late in the fourth.
Yeah, it was 14-14 going into the fourth, 19-14, maybe 5 minutes left to go, and they pop one late. So, yeah, they get that last score. But, I'll back it up again. If Texas Southern just takes the safety, there's no overtime. There's no chance for an overtime.
Nope.
Again, that's why I say Lady Luck. How many times does a kid get the ball and go to punt it and don't touch the ball at all?
Misses it completely.
Some Charlie Brown type stuff. But you've got to tip your hat to them. Yeah, man, that was tough. But again, since we're talking SWAC, my biggest disappointment I'd say was us. Because we had those tough losses, those real close games that we should have had. That game in particular, we win that one. Nobody catches us at that point. And we're in the championship game now. How that goes, who knows? You just want to be in the championship game. Who knows what happens when you get there? And we had chances. We go to Grambling, pull off a big win, and then we have the letdown, so to speak, at Southern. But, again, Coach Thomas's first one. Feel good about the future with it. So I'd say us on that tip. Followed closely by Grambling.
That was my pick.
Yeah, you can take either one.
That was my pick. Well, okay, so here's where I kind of differ with the two. I'm not mad at you for saying you guys, because but at the end of the day, it's kind of tough to say the second place team in the West was the biggest disappointment. Like first year head coach, 5-3 in conference, finished second in the West. A little tough to be like, yeah, we were terrible last year. Now there were some missed opportunities for sure, but I try to look at what team was getting all the hype. Bro, everyone was saying Grambling was going to be that team to just blow out these preseason expectations, and Miles Crawley this, and they have this, and Mickey Joseph's the best recruiter in the SWAC. I didn't see that last year.
Yeah.
I just it was bad. It really, really was bad. I mean, Coach, I'm looking at the schedule here. Like you beat Commerce 35-28 in overtime, where you got outplayed the whole game, and it was turnovers that got you the win there.
Back in it.
I'm just going to say it. If Jackson doesn't go out there and it was like Jackson was taking the snap and damn near just handing the football off to Grambling defenders at this point.
Yeah, just serving it up.
I mean, come on, man. Like, Coach, and you played both Jackson and Grambling. If they play that game 10 times, Jackson wins 9 of them.
Oh, exactly.
They weren't the better team, and so you're on a momentum here, right? You beat Jackson at home, you beat Commerce, and we're all like, okay, you're sitting at 3-1, undefeated against the FCS. Man, we might have some momentum here going into the State Fair Classic, where PV wasn't trending upwards.
Right.
You lose in 5 overtimes to PV. You go and lose to Alcorn at home. Then listen, you get back UAPB, you lose to Texas Southern, you lose to a bad Bethune-Cookman team, you're back up, you upset Alabama State, then you end the season losing to Alabama A&M and Southern.
Yeah.
It just didn't look good.
I'll ask you this into what you're saying. Who had the bigger hype train? Them, Alabama State.
Okay, well, this is going to be surprising. The biggest surprise in the SWAC to me was Alabama State for this reason. Coach, if I would have told you Alabama State to start the year was going to lose Andrew Body, lose their backup, and lose their third-string quarterback, and they were going to have to play a freshman wide receiver at quarterback, what would your record prediction have been?
Oh, they wouldn't have beat us.
No? But would you have guessed 7-5, 5-3 in the SWAC, finished second in the SWAC East?
No.
They're the most – okay, because here's how I look, because everyone's going to say Jackson because they were voted third in the preseason rankings. Coach, you were on here with me. Who did I say was going to win the East?
You said it. You called it.
I said Jackson. I said Jackson was going to win 10 games, and they did that. They did that. And so Jackson to me can't be a surprise because I picked them to win the SWAC East. It'd be like me picking you guys winning the SWAC West and be like, bro, Alcorn was the biggest surprise. It was like they were preseason number one. How could they be a surprise? I think Bama State was a surprise just because of the situation at hand, right, Coach?
Yeah.
How many teams are winning 7 games with a wide receiver playing quarterback?
Yeah. And hats off to them for making that happen, because when you put it in that, when you break it down to that makes it even sound even more unbelievable. Because it wasn't a big receiver. It was a 5'10" guy.
5'10" is a stretch. Bro, that kid might be 5'8". 5'10" might be a stretch.
I got to feel better about that loss. And they're limited as to what they could do. But for the second year in a row, man, they've played lights out defense. They've given themselves a chance to win games. So I would side with you as the biggest surprise. I could take that. If we're taking that, the biggest surprise for me was the Rattlers, because that I really felt like at some point they just kind of, the wheels fell off. I think I picked them in the preseason to win it. The champs. I'm always going to do that. The champs until somebody beats them. But I think after that Jackson loss, man, the wheels just kind of fell off. Yeah. And I think they were kind of in the same boat as us. You go so many weeks in a row watching that scoreboard, hoping for that other team to lose, give you a chance to catch up. And then it never happens. And I think at some point in time, your kids start to thinking like, you know what, man, this is pointless. We're not going to be able to catch them. And I think it goes from 100% effort to the 80-ish. And then before you know it, it's just like, whatever, finish it up strong. And then in their mind, why are we playing this game during Christmas and we have no opportunity to play for a championship? The game that they postponed, but they bounced back and won that one. I thought that was going to get ugly on their part because I thought those kids had really cashed it and checked out. But, I think that's kind of that happens in what goes on. But that was my biggest surprise, just the way they kind of, after that Jackson loss, kind of nosedive from all aspects of the program.
I'm so torn on FAM. Because half of me wants to say they're probably one of the bigger disappointments in the East. Mm-hmm. But then the other half of me was like, Zach, you picked them third. They finished exactly where you thought they were going to finish with the record you predicted. I said only 7 games, and they did. So was it really a surprise? But I think it was just the way it happened, right, Coach? I think that was kind of the thing.
Yes.
That, so like, come on, bro. Losing to PV and Valley really just kind of put like that black mark on the season, right? It was like, what happened in those 2 weeks there?
Yep.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, Coach. They lose on the 9th to PV on the road. They score 12 points. At that point, their season was over. Jackson wasn't going to lose 3 games in the final, 4 or 2 or whatever it was.
Right.
It was over. They go into Valley with nothing to play for. And you could tell they had nothing to play for. And really and truly, Coach, I really do think if it went the Florida Classic, they lose that last week too. But they were losing that game, and I think it clicked. It was like, bro, this is the Florida Classic. We're going to get someone fired if we don't win this game. Like, we got it to, like, because we can't lose to PV, Valley, and then Bethune to end the season.
Yeah.
That can't happen. And
that's not a good look.
If they lose that game, who knows what happens against Alabama A&M in that last game. But I can't call them like the biggest disappointment. I want to say this, though, Coach, if you remember on the show, we were asking people kind of who their sleepers were in the SWAC. There were a lot of people who picked Bethune-Cookman.
I was one of them. Well, I didn't pick them. I just said that I felt like they could be that, but I didn't go all the way out there on that limb. But 2-10,
Coach. 2-10.
Unbelievable.
And that includes a D2 loss to Clark Atlanta.
Unbelievable.
Their only wins were Mississippi Valley State and Grambling. And
which makes that loss for Graham look even worse.
Yeah, but Coach, we talked about this. A lot of a big reason why people were picking Bethune as a sleeper is, one, they were recruiting well, and two, the year before they lost a whole bunch of close games. Remember that Jackson game was a 1-score loss. They had a few other ones, but Coach, take the first half of the season out, right? They were never going to beat South Florida, Mercer, or Western Michigan, especially with what Mercer became. Mercer was a really, really good
big
team.
Surprise as well.
Let's take that. They lose to Clark Atlanta by 1. They lose to Bama State. They lose Bama State by 5. They lose to Southern by 2 in 5 overtimes. They lose to Texas Southern by 3. They lose to FAM by 3. The only 2 teams in the SWAC that blew them out were Jackson, beat them by 20, and Alabama A&M beat them by 50.
So, back up a few minutes ago in our conversation, we're talking about the MEAC. So, which one are they? A team that's on the cusp of being really, really good, or the bad team that just find ways to lose games?
Okay. I don't think they've recruited as well as they did last year, so I think it's going in the wrong direction.
Okay,
so let me ask you this, Coach, because you're on the other side, so you can speak kind of clearly about the East. Did the gap between them and Jackson get bigger or smaller this offseason?
Bigger.
Did the gap between them and Alabama State get bigger or smaller this offseason?
Bigger on paper, yeah.
Did the gap between them and Florida A&M get bigger or smaller this offseason?
I got to say that as well, bigger, yeah.
Did the gap between them and Alabama A&M get bigger or smaller this offseason?
Oh, ain't no doubt.
Bro, so they're in the way, way wrong direction right now.
Because you should have been able to gain ground on A&M at least because of the time it took to handle their coaching deal. You know what I mean? You should have been able to gain ground on them. And then, man, just get coffee. You ain't got to drink Monster, man. It works the same.
I hate coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker.
Well, Zach, we're never going to get a coffee sponsor if you just put it out there that you hate coffee, man.
Listen, if there's any coffee sponsor out here, sponsor the show, and I'll try it. And listen, depending on how much you pay, I might love it. That money talks. So y'all here acting like it's the best coffee in the world.
But back on track, you should have been able to gain ground on A&M. And I just, I know one coach for sure left the staff. But just, in this day and age in recruiting, it's so much out there. Now you do have to put some money behind it to get quality, but I also think you can find quality without money because there's just so many kids out there without a place to go. For a program, say like, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way, but for a program like Cookman, I really think you could find a bunch of quality kids to come in and help you, even without a collective. Now, it's going to be up to you to get them in early, get them in your system, love them up, that kind of thing. If you don't have money behind you, so to speak, to go out and have a collective and get, players through the portal that way. But there's over 7,000 kids in the portal. There's 11 of those 7,000 that are going to come just for the scholarship if it's just last minute to better your program, to catch a program that doesn't have a head coach. And I just, again, I don't know what the approach was in recruiting, but it just,
Okay, so here's where I'm having problems with, okay, and just hear me out. There are certain programs in the SWAC, and coach, like, okay, so real quick, people feel like I'm hating on the SWAC when I say this, but it's really just my admiration and how highly I do think of the conference. There's no reason some of these other FCS programs should be out recruiting some of these SWAC programs in their own state.
Oh, no doubt.
Like it's embarrassing.
No doubt. You know, I hold my recruiting prowess in high regard. So I can go down in Florida and beat them. I feel, but should I be able to? No,
No.
no.
Coach, and this is no offense to you because you're a Florida coach. You've recruited Florida your whole career, like, and you're one of the most experienced assistants in the SWAC, and you're from Florida, and you have those connections and all this. But there's no reason you should be able to go into Florida and pull a kid to Lorman, Mississippi, before Fam or Bethune pull a kid from Florida to one of those two schools. And
I
coach,
wholeheartedly agree.
and here's where I really get upset with. You got schools like, okay, so I almost said, okay, so let's just take North Dakota State out of the equation because they recruit Florida actually pretty well. Like Christian Watson and some of those guys came right out of Florida. One, they might be, whatever people say, what FBS, masquerading at FCS, whatever. North Dakota State shouldn't be able to go into Florida and pull a kid like Christian Watson out. They shouldn't.
No.
It shouldn't happen. But especially teams like Mercer and West Georgia and Sanford and Chattanooga and UT Martin, the fact that those schools can go in here and out recruit a school like Bethune-Cookman is outrageous, in my opinion.
No, you're 100% correct. And we'll stay with the Cookman tune. Zach, I just got to believe that I can pretty much get any kid outside of what we consider the Power Five in the state and the Group of Four in that state. I feel like with Bethune's location that Mercer doesn't have a chance.
Shouldn't.
Alcorn wouldn't have a chance. But again, it's all in your philosophy and how you attack it. And again, I don't know what Coach Woody's philosophy was or is in the recruiting process. So, again, I'm not questioning that, to each his own. But again, you can't have quality kids leave your state if you're trying to gain ground on other folks in your conference. And you definitely can't have them leave your state going to other schools in your conference. You can't allow that. You can't allow that.
No, and that's it. Listen, that's why I have a whole lot of respect for Tremaine Jackson at PV. He came out and said, "Bro, we should be the flagship FCS school in the state of Texas." Coach, you've been around the FCS, like me and you have covered this for a while, and me even a little bit longer than you. I've been to most of the schools in Texas, FCS programs. None of them look like PV. None of them. But
Right.
How is Incarnate Word getting any kid they want? And I don't want to hear resources. They might be a private Christian college, coach. Their stadium seats 4 people. I'm not joking. Like, you're laughing, but I'm not kidding.
Oh man.
Like, how do we do that? And then, coach, we talk about this. Look, who was the starting quarterback for Mercer last year? We'll just stick on the Mercer train, right? Because they're kind of in the same footprint. How did DJ Smith get out of Greenwood, Mississippi, and wind up at Mercer as a starting quarterback? How does that happen? How did Dwayne McGee become a first-team All-SoCon running back out of Kissimmee, Florida?
And Kissimmee's right down the street from Cookman, so to speak. And this could be a whole nother argument, as you said, not talking about resources and all that, like that. But, I think you really got to hit that thing and you got to change the narrative. You got to attack what it is that they think is the negative from going to a Cookman to a East Tennessee State. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man, you're going to East Tennessee State or Daytona, Florida, regardless of what it is.
UT Martin. Have you been to Martin, Tennessee?
Like, I've been through there, and I'm just like, again,
it is nothing but cow fields.
Again, I've got to get you on the campus. I got to get you out of the mindset of HBCU. Do you realize we're the same FCS program, Division I program, as they are? You know what I mean? This is not the 60s. This is not the 70s. This is not the late 80s. We are the same FCS program, and we play on TV, if not the same, more than when you're talking about going there. So, we've got to have different narratives that you got to be able to attack. I just believe, man, if I get a kid down in Daytona, Florida today, and he goes to UT chat next week, I've got to believe I win. I got to believe I win that.
You would hope.
Just because.
Coach, the kid who finished second for the Jerry Rice Award, the freshman All-American defensive end for Mercer, Andrew Zock, Citra, Florida.
Yeah, can't let that get out of there.
Hawthorne High School.
That's a good program. That used to be a really good program.
That kid had like 13 and a half sacks as a true freshman this year. He's going to be a freak.
If they can hold on to him.
Yeah, well, they did this year. That's the thing. He should have transferred. They lost the other two linemen the freshman stay, which is crazy. Coach, real quick, this is way too early favorites, man. We did this last year. These predictions aren't locked in. We'll do an official preview when we get closer to the season, probably right after media day. Way too early favorite out of the MEAC.
Way too early favorite. I think you got to go back with South Carolina State.
God, you win this champion, going to be champion for everything. Killing me.
Pedigree, coaches in place. You got 2 new coaches in that conference. Don't know what Coach Scott has fixed, haven't fixed, what he got in there as well. So I feel like Coach Berry, you got to ride with that one again.
I'm going NCCU. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it's particularly close right now. And I'm going to say this. This is just, and I promise my guy, I won't say the name. Coach, there might be a new quarterback over in Durham next year.
No. And again, my guy, Matt Leone, that's my dude. But again, what happened to the greatest thing ever than he might even be better than Davis Richardson?
I'll say this. They said this kid is built out of the mold of Davius. A more athletic Davius.
Got to prove it.
He played in one game last year. I'll give you all that hint.
Got to prove it.
Listen, you know what's weird about the MEAC, man? Like, my favorite kind of alternates based on who has the home game. And the fact that Central gets South Carolina State at home, I think that's enough to get them over the hump. I mean, because
that's a win.
Yeah, I'll say this. Okay, so they have a really good schedule. Shout out to them. Listen, I like I've always said, Coach, I'll excuse one D2 game. One D2 game, as long as it's a legit D2, a historical D2, I'll throw my hands up and say, you got me. I get it. They play Fayetteville State, in-state, HBCU, history with D2. I get it. I'll toss my hands up. You got it. But the reason I give them a pass, Coach, they play Southern in the SWAC MEAC Challenge. They play New Hampshire at home. They go play Old Dominion. They play Fayetteville, like I just said. They play at A&T. They go on the road to East Texas A&M, formerly Texas A&M Commerce. They go to FAMU for another out-of-conference game, which is going to be, that's going to be such a good game. Delaware State at Howard, Norfolk, South Carolina State at Morgan to end the season. That is a hell of a schedule, and I do think NCCU is going to have a really, really good shot to get the title next year, man. I thought they were good enough to get it this year. Man, they started so slow against South Carolina State, and there was just no chance they were going to be able to overcome how quick South Carolina State started last year.
Right.
I'm the watcher. If you go to NCCU's website, I think they moved that ECU game. They moved the ECU game to play FAMU, if I'm not mistaken. Because on their website, they play Old Dominion on September 6th. It looks like they changed that ECU game up. So unless they're going to change the Old Dominion game to ECU, which is fine. I think both of those programs are winnable. Like, to me, Coach, I like winnable FBS games. Like, I don't like the going to play Alabama or going to play Ole
Right.
Miss or going to play Vandy.
Me either.
Yeah. Like I like these games, the Old Dominions, the ULMs, the ULLs, like teams like that. That man, go catch you Kennesaw State.
Why not?
Yeah. Or okay, I was gonna say Jacksonville State, but they're pretty damn good already. So maybe avoid the Jacksonville
Yeah, that's
States
the
and the
same
James
thing.
Madisons. Probably
Yeah.
avoid them. Go get the Sam Houston States and,
Yeah.
and the FBS teams that haven't maybe figured it all the way out yet.
From the 125 on down.
Yes.
FBS.
Avoid those teams winning conference championships already.
At all costs. At all costs. Especially early on, at all costs.
So, Coach, to the SWAC, obviously, we already know who your West favorite is. It's some big bad Braves coming out of Lorman. Your East favorite, way too early right now.
Way too early, man. I got to believe that Coach Cozy's fixed that at FAM. So I gotta believe that they're gonna have that chip on their shoulder. Some of the names that they were able to put up, it wasn't a stellar like they've done in the past with the names, the transfers that they got in. But I gotta believe that, with the names that they got, he'll have them back and they'll be ready to go. And they fixed some stuff in-house, even though, like I said, they lost some stuff in-house on the staff, but I think he's got some stuff fixed. And if they can figure out the replacement at the QB, I got to go with them.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put my ring in the hat for Jackson. I think they're going okay, so FAM's got to prove it to me. I don't know. Like you said, I just think quarterback, huge question mark, right? Because it's dangerous. And Coach, you can maybe talk about this a little bit. It's dangerous playing hired mercenary at quarterback.
I know that.
At FCS level. And that's kind of the hat that FAMU's thrown themselves in the past few years. They just go get the best transfer they can have. There's no QB development right now at FAM.
Yeah.
Because the one guy you put your hat on in Junior Maritovich didn't pan out. And so you're just getting hired hand after hired hand. There's no consistency there. Jackson, returning quarterback. Multiple returning wide receivers. They brought a lot of those guys back on defense as well. So I think Jackson's checks a lot more boxes right now. I will say this. I am a little bit worried about the defensive staff at Bama State, especially with the loss of Ryan Lewis, man, one of the most talented assistants in the SWAC. But, Coach, I want to say Bama State returns all but like 2 starters from last year's team.
Yeah.
God, they're going to be good.
Again,
quarterback.
I guess it's kind of I guess it's kind of same with my pick. They have the same issue. Quarterback.
At least we know who it's going to be, though, right? At quarterback for Bama State.
We think.
Okay, if they bring Body back, which that's the plan right now, is it Andrew Body coming back off his injury? If they bring him back and don't start him, I'm done. You get me? I'm good. What, you gonna roll the 5'8" wide receiver back out there at quarterback? Come on,
next,
man. Like
the next hired hand
stop.
said, right now, man, that thing is it's a popularity contest, man. I mean, if we're being honest about it, it's a popularity contest. At that position, you want to, and we'd be right involved with it as well. You find the high transfer that hops in the portal after spring break. You have an opportunity to get in, create buzz, create enthusiasm, create hope within the program, kind of thing. I mean, I think you do it, but I think if they haven't, probably have learned a lesson from that over the past couple of years, because that's what they dabbled in.
Yeah.
They paid a lot of money for when this thing with NIL first happened. They paid a lot of money for the transfer from Auburn. Then you come back and you basically do the same thing again. So will the third time be the charm, or will we not see the third time? Because fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'll say in the West, Coach, is there ever going to be a year where there's a clear favorite in that division? Like, good Lord, there's some question marks. Like, UAPB lost all their best players to the portal.
Oh, man.
I don't know what they're going to be. Grambling has not been good. I think Grambling was one of the biggest question marks on signing day.
Don't know what they did.
That's what I'm
I don't know
saying.
if you
There's
saw it, but I didn't see
nothing.
anything. Okay.
I mean, T-Set was a big signee, I guess. But outside of that, okay. So, and I heard a really good comment. I don't remember if it was Scotty. It was someone on Scotty, Josh, BJ, and Zoe's show. They were saying that it just doesn't, like, Mickey was known for his recruiting prowess, right? But it seems like that recruiting prowess hasn't followed him when you take that LSU logo off his jacket.
That and the game has changed since the last time.
Yeah.
The whole thing. I don't think everybody I don't think people really know the change that has really happened in that. Now, there was a time when a guy could show up with the LSU logo in New Orleans. He's from New Orleans, and get anybody out of New Orleans that he wanted. There was a time when a guy with the Florida State logo could get anybody out of Florida that he wanted to stay there. Those times aren't here anymore. Completely gone. Completely gone. It's now, what can you do for me? How quickly can you do for me? And let's, go with it. Someone was talking about it the other day. I think Georgia still uses the blueprint of what recruiting was. But at the end of that, then you go talk to the collective or the money people, whatever. But we want people that want to be here at Georgia. We're recruiting you to play football, not recruiting you to become a businessman off the side or whatever. But how many programs are really operating like that, and how many programs can operate like that? So I said all that to say that logo is not as big as it used to be.
Not if it's not Georgia, right? Because Georgia could walk you down the hallway at the facility and be like, he was a first rounder, played 7 snaps. He was a first rounder, played in only 12 games. He was a first rounder and he's set for 3 years. Oh, he's in the Super Bowl. He won MVP. He won Defensive Player of the Year. Like the what Kirby Smart and that staff's developed is not the same across the country, right? And even Alabama doesn't have that same cachet that it did with under Nick Saban. Like Kalen DeBoer is not recruiting at that same level that Nick was.
No.
Because a lot of people talked about the Nick Saban discount coach because players were going to Alabama for less NIL money just to play for Saban. And they're not doing that for DeBoer. And also, too, and that's the thing with like FCS recruiting, like how many teams can go do like North Dakota State and be like, yo, here's the 10 national championship trophies from the past 12 years. I mean, it's different. So I'll say in the West, man, I do think Southern's still going to be good. I do want to see the development of Jalen Woods at quarterback because, Coach, I look at Southern. I don't want to count them out because last year they weren't a super talented team, and they just found a way to win and get there. And so I do think they did a good job of addressing the lines of scrimmage and recruiting this year. Added some much needed size, some experience up front. So I think Southern is a team that's going to be there. You guys, as always, man. And then also, too, the dark horse for me, man, PV. They signed a lot of kids, and they brought a lot of talent in, especially from the JUCO transfer portal. And, Coach, there's been this mixed result, right? Is it better to bring in a whole bunch of transfers? Is it better to develop out of the high school ranks? Is it better to get JUCO guys? We're going to find out. And Tremaine came on the show, Coach. I don't know if you saw the interview. He said we're a 21 and up club. He said if you aren't ready to play next year, we don't want you.
That's what it's come to.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out if that works. And so I think those will be my top 3. Texas Southern, listen, they were 4-4, 5-6. Not a bad year for a first-year head coach, right? I thought he was okay. I don't know. I got to do a little bit more research. I really just don't know if they have anybody that flashes for me, right, Coach?
And they were moving. They were trending in the right direction when the quarterback got hurt. But then, to me, there shouldn't have been much of a fall off because now you're replacing with a guy that started every game last year. So you can't lean on that anymore, so to speak. So replacing that, like you said, now having a full year, I still don't know exactly what they brought into the fold. So it'd be interesting to see on their end as well. Definitely.
Last topic, Coach. I know you got to get out of here soon. And me and you have texted about this because you texted me about y'all's schedule. Does the SWAC have a scheduling problem, in your opinion?
I think yeah. Um, yeah, no. I say yeah because I think a lot of people are forced to find those money games, and then you, like I said, we just touched on that. Play those money games. I get it. I understand it. Do I agree with it? No. But it is what it is. But outside of that, I think comes the piece of I got to get a W. I can't play Vanderbilt, UAB back-to-back weeks that I know is going to be tough sledding and play a Stephen F. Austin week 1, 2, and 3, starting out 0-3 possibly. That fourth one has got to be a win. Now, where do I go get that? Yeah, where do I go get that win from? And I think it all translates and comes back to what have you done for me lately? So how patient is the administration / fan base going to be with you? If they're going to be patient and be, hey, we understand your method. Okay, yeah, you got to go play those money games. Now I want to play up. I want to play the Stephen F. Austins. I want to play the North Dakota State, so to speak, before I get to conference so I can see exactly what I have heading into my conference deal. And then you got to be strategic with your buy as well. So, yeah, we have a problem. No, we don't have a problem. But you can't schedule back-to-back Lynchburgs, no disrespect.
No.
Team out of
or
California.
Lincoln CAs, yeah.
No disrespect. You can't have both of those on the schedule at the same time. You just can't do it. You just can't do it.
So, okay, so I think there's, and listen, man, on this show, we always say, man, there's multiple sides to the conversation.
Two things can be true at once.
Yes. Do some teams do really good job scheduling? Yeah, absolutely. They do. And like I said, I don't mind one D2 game, especially if it's like Coach like this year. I don't necessarily have a problem with Jackson playing Tuskegee. Like, that's a game that's going to draw really well. It's their only D2 game on the schedule. Like, that makes 100% sense to me, right? But it's the random Lincoln CAs and, like, let's just put it like this. I get it's a financial thing. Coach, you've been around the SWAC. How many people are coming to that Lincoln CA game?
For us, being at his homecoming, we'll have a full house.
And do y'all have to pay Lincoln CA to come?
That I'm not really sure on the amount. I know we do, but I don't know. I'm not sure on the amount that we're actually paying them. But I'm willing to go out on the limb and say it's not a whole bunch. But
you would hope not. But if depending on what they're being paid, Lincoln CA is the most financially savvy.
They better be, because they live in our conference, man. And I don't know.
They should be an honorary member at this point. Lincoln CA to the Celebration Bowl.
I mean, Lynchburg is probably mad at them because they're taking all the games that they used to get. But I think I get your point. I really do. And when I saw our schedule, you were the first person I thought about. I was like, but we don't have two of them, so that makes up for it.
That's okay. So here's the thing, right, Coach? Are y'all getting paid to go to Alabama A&M week 1?
No
chance.
That's a COVID makeup game. We're still being punished for not playing that COVID season. So that's that makeup game that we owe them back in 2020, and we're in 2025.
It's just okay. So let me put it like this: the Southern Jackson out of conference game, didn't love it, but got it. Bayou, not Bayou, but like Boombox Classic, legendary rivalry. You got to play it,
right? No doubt.
And if you're Jackson Grambling, if you can go get a sponsor and go play in Las Vegas,
I'm with it,
bro. I'm with it. Go make your money. But I'm going to be honest here. And Southern fans in the chat, how much money Southern making going to Valley for an out-of-conference game?
Losing.
How many fans going to be there? 5,000? 4,000.
Southern's losing in that one because of travel.
Yeah, like so that's what I'm saying. I get saying, oh, we're gonna schedule this weird schedule to make money. Southern's making nothing by going to Valley for a non-conference game. That's dumb.
Going to Valley. Valley's gonna
Going
make
to
money.
Valley.
Southern's losing money.
Bro, you could Valley got paid like $200K to go play Nichols last year, like $100K. It was like six figures. Southern could have just been like, bro, Nichols, we'll come to Nichols and make $100K.
In-state game, hype it, no doubt about it.
But like, those are the games that make no sense to me. Is like wasting money to go play conference, non-conference games that aren't Southern Jackson. Coach,
True.
I can name the rivalries that are cross division that would make money as an out of conference game. Alcorn Jackson, Jackson Southern. That's cross division. That might be it. I mean,
Fam Southern.
Yeah, Fam Southern. That would be one. Jackson Grambling.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's four games, and 3 of them involve Jackson State.
Alabama State's not really like that.
No,
so to speak, in that realm. PV's not really like that in that realm.
But D, here's my thing. D, attendance only helps the home team.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Valley makes money. Southern loses money in this situation.
Valley ain't making any money.
Well, they'll make money in ticket sales.
From 3,000?
They'll make money in ticket sales.
Now,
I'm not saying they're going to make 6 figures, but they're going to make money. They're not going to lose money.
A little bit. But here's the thing is, like, you hear all this thing about attendance. Do you know how many teams in the FCS rank ahead of Valley in attendance?
Oh, I'm sure quite a few.
Bro, I'm sorry. Like you can't, because Coach, you have coached in the SWAC forever. There are certain SWAC games that people don't show up to.
Oh, no doubt.
That they talk about the away team should bring fans, right? That's the whole argument, is that a SWAC team will bring more fans to the game than a normal out of conference team. Coach, can you name the fan bases that travel heavily to Lorman when y'all play for non-homecoming and non-classic games?
Southern. Can't say Jackson because that's a classic. That's
Southern. And if y'all played FAM, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because FAM didn't really show up to Jackson this year.
Yeah, Southern. Graham doesn't really travel. Even when we played them for homecoming, Hugh Jackson's last year, they didn't come. Grambling didn't. PV don't ever. Cookman, of course, not. Alabama State, the few times I've been there that they've come, no. A&M, no. So, yeah, I see your point.
and Coach, who did y'all play last year? Who was the D2 team y'all played last year?
Edward Waters.
Did they bring anybody?
No.
So who would have brought more fans? Them, or if y'all would have played Sanford or somebody?
I gotta believe it was about the same. Sanford, maybe.
I mean,
we played Mississippi College. Mississippi College brought some folks down.
Well, they don't. Do they even have a team anymore?
No, they canceled. Well, I was just making the point. D2.
Yeah,
but yeah, they canceled their program.
Yeah, the local D2 schools will, which is why I say one local D2 isn't bad. Like Tuskegee's bringing fans to Jackson for that game. That's a genius game.
I believe that.
Genius game. And then also too with who is it? Like the North Carolina Central playing Winston-Salem State and Fayetteville State. Genius. Yeah. They're packing it out because it's an old D2 rivalry. But playing these random ass D2 schools is the one that makes no sense to me.
And I'm of that with you. I'm all about making the SWAC MEAC Classic a cross schedule game, as best you can with the teams that the MEAC has.
I wish there was, and we've talked about this, like, I wish there was more investment because let's be honest. I mean, how many fans in the chat have been to the SWAC MEAC Challenge? I'm sure Mr. Campbell has with FAMU being in it. A bunch of the Jackson fans that are tuned in have been to it with Jackson playing in it. Southern played in it a few years ago, I want to say, or they're playing in it this year.
I don't remember.
I'm just trying to think of all the history of it. I know Bethune-Cookman's played in it, but they were in the MEAC when they played in it. Yeah. I want to say Bethune-Cookman played Jackson in it. Yeah, Mr. Campbell said, I've been to all of them. Sonic Boom, Markwell. I mean, they're David Jackson. All of them have been there. That's a big game. They have packed that game out. Alabama State played in it with Howard. I was at that game. So, therefore, why couldn't you make a weekend out of that?
Yeah, a home and home, or however you want to do it. I think that takes, some of the scheduling out of it, so to speak. I mean, it's kind of like they do in the basketball where they are crossover and they have that Big East ACC challenge or whatever it is, where you play those teams and everything's going on at whoever the home court draw is. I mean, I'd be all for it. I really think that would be something big for both conferences.
Because, Coach, I mean, here's what I think should happen. This was my idea with it. So it should be, I mean, you've seen the basketball challenges, right? Like, I think the SWAC and Big 12 have one. The SWAC or the SEC Big 12 have one. The SWAC had one with the Pac-12 a few years ago. Week 0, the game in Atlanta should be a Celebration Bowl rematch.
Let's do it.
That should kick off the season. Celebration Bowl rematch, week 0 in Atlanta. And if you can, let's move it to the Mercedes-Benz.
Let's do it. That's a great idea.
And then the next game can be on a Sunday or something. They've had that weird flex with like the OBC or whatever, the Orange Blossom Classic. Have the second place teams play each other in that game. And then you could schedule some home and homes with the 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever you want to do with that. And then you just rotate it.
Yeah. I think that would,
how, like, because I want to say there's a bunch of people in the chat who have been to Atlanta. You can't tell me the attendance and the payouts and the sponsors aren't there for that. Yeah, and even if you can't afford the bins, keep it where it is. But, Coach, how exciting would that be to see a Celebration Bowl rematch week 0 in Atlanta? ESPN primetime kickoff.
I think that'd be dope. I really do. I think that'd be dope. And then the next day, you have second place teams or the hottest names out of those conferences playing the next day. I think that'd be completely an awesome weekend. I really do.
Man, I'm just excited. I want to see. Okay, so I do think if the Grambling-Jackson Classic in Las Vegas is a success, which I think it will be, because I want to say A&T played Southern in Las Vegas a while back, and that game packed it out and made a whole lot of money. If Jackson Grambling make a whole lot of money, that's going to be the model moving forward.
Oh, no doubt. Everything turns back to what it used to be back in the day. Everything's a classic for certain teams. Nobody plays a home game kind of deal. That's the only fear I have about it, is that, it becomes a deal where a lot of teams just give up home games for the financial deal. But I get it if that happens. But, I hope that doesn't happen.
I do like this. Did you see this? Tennessee State, Alabama A&M signed a 4-year deal.
Yeah, I saw that. So Tennessee State got out of that deal with the UAPB.
Yeah, I don't blame them on that. I mean, I just think, okay, and I know Sonic Boom's in the chat. He's my JSU guy, and he disagrees with me wholeheartedly on this, Coach. Just make Tennessee State Jackson a home and home, and then when you have to play at Tennessee State, just let them host it in Memphis.
I think it'd be big either way. Tennessee State's to Jackson. I mean, they're going to
travel. So I think it will be big when Tennessee State goes to Jackson. The concern is when Jackson goes to Tennessee State, what's that going to look like? That's the concern from my perspective.
Well, they got to play it, where they play the Classic Act now, no doubt about it. but I think it's a win. I think that would be a win-win for for them because that classic became a big deal. So I definitely.
Well, I think the thing that so if let's just say they they get rid of that game, right? I think the problem is, and what's brought kind of the hunger to bring it back is not only the history, right? It's the fact that Jackson State and Tennessee State are both good.
Again, yeah, at the same time.
That's the hunger, right?
Yeah.
That people have for it is that we want to see good games. Like, I understand that there's this perspective that fans don't care about matchups. At the end of the day, the football fans in the chat, the football fans for all these respective institutions want to see good football. Coach, how good of a game would Tennessee State, Jackson State be this year?
Oh, I mean, they're good at the same time. I think
in my opinion, it would have been a better game this year to see Jackson State, Tennessee State in Atlanta than it would be South Carolina State. And that's no disrespect to South Carolina State. I think the way Tennessee State was playing at the end of last year and the way Jackson was playing at the end of last year, that matchup would have been insane.
No doubt. No doubt. Football-wise, I think that'd be a great because they're good at the same time.
So this is kind of the there's without getting into, because I'm not a political guy and we try to keep a football here, there's a lot more red political tape behind the scenes in terms of renovating hell that people just don't know. Because I asked a coach on the staff about this, and that has been a fight behind the scenes for a while for Tennessee State, but I just don't know if it's going to happen. I just don't know if they're going to have the funds, the support from the state government, things like that to get this done. But yes, that would be, if Tennessee State had the money, they would renovate Hale and host all the games there. I really believe that. Just because it would, I think that would help the attendance a little bit there. There's a lot more there without getting into the whole political climate. And then also too, this is a good point, that the Hampton-Jackson game week 1 will be a kind of a big litmus test on attendance in terms of this game. How many fans do you think Hampton's bringing to that one?
I can't speak on that. I don't know how well Hampton travels. So I can't speak on that.
Oh, man,
I hope they travel.
Funny.
I really do. I hope they travel.
That's funny. It just I said 25. Oh, but Coach, I will say real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Tennessee, have you seen Tennessee State schedule? They probably have the most insane schedule this season.
I have not.
Bro, listen, they're either going to be really, really good, Coach, or it's going to be a really sad start to the season. They get A&T in the John Merritt Classic week 1 at home. Then they host North Dakota State week 2.
I love it.
Then they host Alabama A&M in the Legacy Series.
Let's do it.
Then they host Tennessee Tech at Eastern Illinois at SEMO. They host Howard for homecoming. They host Western Illinois, host Lindenwood. Then they go to UT Martin, host Gardner Webb at Charleston Southern to end the year.
Ooh.
That's a schedule right there.
Ooh, that's Coach George jumped out there, man.
Woo. And this is what I'm talking about. It's possible to schedule good and play out of conference teams. They got A&T coming to Nashville, North Dakota State coming to Nashville, and Alabama A&M coming to Nashville, and Howard coming to Nashville.
Coach jumped out there, man.
Woo. Listen, I'm going to say this. With North Dakota State sitting there week 2, those 2 games around it, A&T and A&M, must wins. Must wins. Because you cannot go into conference play on the 27th 0-3.
Tough.
And Timothy makes a good point. That's a reasonable schedule for what Coach George set the expectations at. They want to make a run to the playoffs and be able to get an at-large if they don't win the conference. That's a schedule to do it, especially if A&T takes a step forward.
No doubt. I mean, I understand the thought process, but surviving the thought process is going to be, the trick.
D-Lob, yes, there's a name attached to it. It's a home and home. It's the Legacy Series, and it's a 4-year contract. So Nashville this year, Huntsville next, Nashville, then back to Huntsville to end it off, and then they could that they could do that. The North Dakota State quarterback is going to the draft, Cam Miller. They have the other kid coming back. Cole Payton will probably be at the start of this year. But coach, after winning the Natty, North Dakota State lost 6 players, 0 to the portal.
That ain't bad.
Not bad at all. And Coach, this is for you. Southern takes the more traditional route with mainly high school recruits. Your thoughts on approaching the recruiting trail? Is it better to go high school heavy? Is it better to balance it out? Your thoughts on this?
My thoughts, solely my thoughts, not those of the advertisers or of this channel. You can no longer go totally high school just because of what you're against. I can't go out there and roll a freshman corner out there versus number 16 for Jackson and expect to win. I can't do that. I can't expect to put a high school tackle, even though the measurables may be what they need to be, versus number 39 for that school up the street. I can't do that if I'm not going to have the time to get that kid to his sophomore or junior year. And the way college landscape is now, the fans are going to run me off before that kid becomes seasoned. And the other part of that is that you're talking about putting 17, 18-year-olds versus 22, sometimes 23-year-olds. And what just happened with that other injunction, sometimes 25-year-olds, the matchup is just not going to be favorable unless you have an administration and a fan base that's going to be patient with you and say, hey, man, do all the high school stuff you need to do. Then, yeah. But right now, I think you got to have transfer. Of course, you got to season some high school kids in there. But, I mean, let's be realistic, B. I go get a high school quarterback who we deem is ready to play week 1, and he goes out there and he has a good year, a decent year. I'm not even saying a super year, a decent year. What's the chances of me holding on to him past year 2? And then I'm right back to it again. As to where, okay, I go out and I can get a transfer to come in, because you can find those guys now in JC where they have 3 years of eligibility left. Well,
hell, they might have all 4 now.
Yeah, I say, well, if this thing passes past the injunction stage, a kid that's had 2 years of football experience at the college level. I wish we could do more high school wise, but I just don't think, the climate allows you to do that anymore, to go out and have a full high school recruiting class. I just don't think you can do that in this day and time.
Yeah. And Crook, no, you got to stop taking stuff. Like he said, mainly high school. We didn't say y'all didn't sign no transfers. We know everyone signed transfers. And for Michael, I in the SWAC West, God, I think it's probably, PV or Alcorn would be my pick. The 2. I'm still doing film breakdowns for some of the recruits, so that's why we really didn't talk National Signing Day today. I wanted to kind of get through some more of my research there, but just right now, face value, I think PV made the most progress because they had so many holes. I mean, they had to replace everybody, and I thought they did a good job coming in late as a new staff doing that. And so from where they started to now, I think PV's there. And then Alcorn did a really good job kind of filling in the spots. And then also, too, Southern, man. I talked about Southern. I thought they did a really good job building out the O-line, D-line. Go ahead, Coach.
So before we leave, can I pose a question to some of the listeners? And, you kind of sift through and see if they, what the answers are. As you are a fan base of whatever university you are right now, how patient will you be, or would you be, with your program going totally high school recruiting? How patient are you willing to be? How patient would you be if your university dealt only in high school recruiting? Are you really, how patient are you going to be? How patient would you be as a fan base?
Let's see. I'm gonna be interested. with some of the answers. And I'm trying to think who's been the most high school heavy schools in the
Nobody.
SWAC. Not really. Davis said not going to work in today's time. It's not possible. I will say this, Coach. Did you see the kid? Do you remember the so we had the JUCO kids sue, right? And get that extra eligibility. Did you see there was an injunction granted last night for the D2 kid?
Yeah,
to come back?
I think I sent your post to my guy JB. I did not see that coming, but then I kind of read through all of that, and I didn't understand it. I can't say I understand it, but I don't think that one's going to have legs like the one junior college deal is. I don't think that one's going to.
You can't play D2 football and just be like it doesn't count.
Yeah,
and our girl Whitley said nope. Markwell said I think everyone should get high schools, but I don't think they're going to be very patient. D said that depends on if you've been dominant or if you're rebuilding. Even high school kids transfer after the first year, no film, or if they do and have some success, not at all. NCCU is probably the best example of high school heavy, but they're in the MEAC. 50-50. He said, Coach, we won 2 games over the past 2 years. We can't depend just on high school kids. Can't do it. Oh, man, my chest hurts on that one. He said, bro, we need the win. I'm sorry. Sonic said he wouldn't want 100% high school, but there has to be a ratio. He said that JSU can probably be increase their percentage. I get that. Kind of goes to your point, though. If you're like with TC winning the Celebration Bowl, he can probably increase the amount of high school players he can take.
Now he has that.
And he has that extension. But if you're coming in like, I mean, I don't want to use the 2 celebrity coaches. If you're coming in like T-Buck at Valley, probably can't bring in a whole lot of high school kids, to be fair.
First of all, and we'll use that university. First of all, if you try to go fully high school, how are you going to be able to what quality high school are you going to be able to get? Because now I can speak, and that's what I said. You can find kids now with 3 years, JC wise, and that's about as close as you can get. But now, my thing is you have to have more of a mix of what you're going against. So if everybody in the SWAC said, hey guys, let's get together, we're only doing high school, that's fine. But nobody's gonna do that this day and age. As a first-year coach, you can do that depending on your culture and your ability to hang on to that original high school class that you bring in. Year 2, there needs to be a substantial amount of progress. And then year 3, you just hope that you are able to bring those guys along to their junior year that you brought in. In this day and age, you can already see that's not possible because there's over 7,000 guys that jumped in the portal with nowhere to go, but just jumped in the portal. Make that make sense. You know what I mean? So again, not to drag the show out, I just, I wanted to see from the fan perspective who would be 10 toes down. Coach, we're going to give you 4 years to build, go strictly high school. After about 4 or 5 of those 40-point losses, Coach, you got to change that philosophy, man. This ain't working, but at the end of the day, the landscape has just changed completely from what it was that we grew up on, man. I posed a question on another show, and the number was crazy. If you think back to, I'm not sure, because you always joke about me saying something old school that you didn't know about, but the Miami Hurricane team that had all those first-round picks on it solely came up from high school. This day and age, there's no way they'd be keep all of those guys. So you think about the payroll it would take to keep a team together fully. You take our conference, the school up the street just won a natty, and they still had kids jumping in the portal, like with nowhere to go. Not that somebody was willing to pay them, but they had nowhere to go. Right now, that's the mindset, and that's what makes it tough to do it at any level, I think, consistently through high school recruiting.
You know, I was only trying to end the shows. I thought you had stuff to do. I'm good with taking as many of these questions because you got the chat buzzing now.
Nah, I just got cigars to get to, but that's easy.
And I think, I think Timothy put it really good. He's, you know, the best teams with the best winning cultures still go mainly high school. You look at the Dakota States, the Montanas, some of these other top programs in the FCS, but they fill in holes with the portal. But you might need to hit the portal to get there. Because I don't think, Coach, I don't think you can recruit high school and expect to win now. Like, you can't. I don't care how good of high school recruits you're getting. I don't care if they come from a winning culture, whatever it may be. You can't run out there with a majority freshman and go win a championship. I just don't think it's possible. But it's almost kind of like betting, right? You put so much stock into getting all these freshmen. How many of those guys are you going to be able to retain? There has to be a retainment plan in place because you know they're going to get tampered with. Like the interview today, we dropped the interview today with head coach Dan Jackson at South Dakota State. He said, "Man, I knew in October what players were going to leave and what players were being tampered with." He said, "I knew." He said, "And it's our responsibility as a staff to admit that it's a real thing and recruit our own roster starting in October."
And I think that's the other aspect of it, B. From coaches to fans to administration, the realization that it's changed. A lot of administrators don't believe it. A lot of older fan base don't believe that this is a real deal and this is how it goes now. You know, there's fan bases, there's fans out there that are of the older generation that still thinks that we can recruit on, and I'm just using us, that we can recruit on the tradition of Steve McNair, of DBU, where everybody in the secondary went pro and played in the NFL. You know, long gone are those days. You know, you still stand on that once you get them in the building, but to bring them in on that, those days aren't here anymore. And I think part of the fan base understand that, and then the other part of the fan base don't understand that the landscape of college football, and I can't say it enough, has completely changed from what we knew it just 4 years ago. And it's steadily changing. Like you just said, a kid from D2 just got an injunction saying that he can go back to school after he played his eligibility up. You know, kid down in Miami has played 9 years. Can you imagine being in college for 9 years?
No.
I
graduated in 5. I graduated in 3.
Well, you're nuclear.
I'm about to say, so like I graduated in 3 and I was there for too long in my opinion. Like I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like,
bro, you can only get federal financial aid for like 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not in his case because he's on scholarship, but
you got these kids wanting 8th, 9th, 10th years, and they still don't have a master's. How is that even possible?
Like, what classes are you taking? Because progress toward degree, at some point, somebody's got to say, "Hey, man, this is not what it is."
And I really do think that. Okay, so here's what happened, and someone asked me about this, about why, because you know this, a lot of older fans, a lot of average fans hate the portal, hate NIL. They think it's ruining college football. I don't know. But here's my argument to that. I don't think both of those things are. I think what happened is you let both go without any guardrails. If they were to, if they would have introduced one and mastered the transfer portal cycle and got that under control, managed, monitored, and then released NIL, I don't think we would have had the same, I guess, rush and change that we've seen in college football. It was like you had 2 boulders and you let them both go at the same time, and you're surprised that it caused more destruction than just releasing one boulder. It was like, well, you released these 2 bowling balls down this mountain, like you didn't think nothing was going to happen. I do think that, and also it compounded with each other too, is that the NIL increased the impact of the transfer portal. And the fact that they were released at the same time, and you had all these kids who, quote unquote, weren't getting paid, even though we know they were, it made it so much worse. And then it's like, you can enter the transfer portal whenever you want, as many times as you want. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to jump from bag to bag, especially the guys who weren't going to the league, right? If I'm not, listen, the 5-star DB at Georgia isn't leaving because he knows in 2 years, coach, he's going to be the 21st pick of the NFL draft and get millions and millions of dollars. But the defensive back at Western Illinois, who might be all conference, but he's 5'10", and he's undersized, and he knows he doesn't have a future in the league. Well, guess what? He's going to take his all conference year, coach. He's going to go get $400K from Illinois. And then if he breaks out there, he might go get a $600K bag from Ohio State the next year. And I think it was unleashing both of those things at the same time with no guardrails that really hurt college football. I don't think the things independently hurt college football because, one, players should be able to make money NIL. The problem is the schools took advantage, found loopholes, and it's just pay for play. It's not NIL. Because you should be able, because, coach, me and you are teammates, man. I play offensive tackle, you play wide receiver at LSU. Me and you are on a Gatorade commercial together. We should be able to make money off our Gatorade commercial. That's not what's happening, though, coach. Me and you are high school teammates. You're getting $300K. I'm getting $400K to go to play LSU. That's what it's becoming. And then also, too, I don't think you should. At the end of the day, here's what happened. And coach, we've had this conversation with Coach JB and Josh and Scotty on the show. Everything's a pendulum. We were way over here to the right. No player movement, no player freedom, no player control. That's not good. The problem is the pendulum swung all the way over here, and now we got way too much player movement, way too much player freedom, and no control. There's a healthy balance somewhere.
But I think it's like Coach JB said, Josh, Dedrick Dodge, all those guys said the same thing we're saying. And I'm saying what you're saying. I'm not saying when we started the conversation, I wasn't saying that it's bad. Yeah. I'm saying it's bad because it has no rules to it. There's no way to put the toothpaste back in the tube. If NIL was what NIL was created to be, name, image, and likeness, then that's fine. But it also transformed into collectives. Now, that's fine too. But I think there should have been a cap on what the collective could do. Now, if Blue wanted to go out and hustle up 87 deals for his name, image, and likeness, that's fine. That's him. What he does for that is what he does for that. But we need to see you doing commercials for a car dealership. We need to see proof of you doing commercials for Home Depot, because we know that at that point, then the game would have been the guys in the collective that have these businesses. We would have just given you a whole bunch of deals, but when you don't put parameters on it, that's when it gets out of control. And then it just becomes, like I've said in the past, big bank take little bank. That's just what it is. So it's a trickle down. So the Power Five goes and takes all the good players from UConn. UConn goes and takes all the good players from North Dakota State, Alcorn State. Now we've got to try to find the balance to, hate to say it, but we've got to go and try to find a way to get the players from Valdosta and things like that to continue to keep up, all while trying to get high school kids up to that level, only to lose them by the time we get to going into junior year. And then if they're really special, to their sophomore year. I don't think people really understand. If you're not a high school ESPN 300, it's rough as the Gulf, man. None of those guys are going to Power 5 type programs. You know what I mean?
This is the key. And I've talked to Josh about this. The problem is the NIL model is good. Coach, have you ever taken like an economics class?
Yeah.
All these economic models that are
that was
good.
My whole thing.
They're good in theory, right? But there's all these like economic theories, but none of them work in the real world, right? Like you learn about all these theories and it's like, oh, well, that will never work. And it's like, well, why the hell have we spent learning this if it doesn't work? That's what it was. The NIL theory worked, right? In just imagination and talking about it.
Yeah, because we put your jersey in a bookstore, we're selling it. Yeah, okay, cool.
But these college athletes aren't, listen, and this is no offense, like you might have the one-offs, right? The Shadors, the Travis Hunters, someone like that. But at the end of the day, the average college player coach is not bringing in the ROI that signing a LeBron James or a Luka Doncic or someone like a professional athlete is. It's not the same. And so I
No.
just don't think the money was there.
And then and we'll take the national champions. The money they spent on that roster.
What was it, like 20 million or something like that?
Yeah. And then you look at who was really getting to the money, so to speak. It wasn't like everybody, but it was to the point that it made it look like everybody's getting it. You know what I mean? And then I think the only thing that's going to bring this back, I'm going to read the comment.
He's hit it on the spot. The only ROIs that are really hitting are the girl athletes, the women's basketball players, the Olympians. Like, listen, who's the girl at LSU, the Olympian, not the Olympian, the gymnastics girl, Livy, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
All bringing in hella money. The twins, the one that's dating Carson Beck and got him to transfer to Miami. That girl single-handedly changed the landscape of college football, by the way, just by dating a kid.
He needs to break her off too.
And then what? Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, coach, they were having more ROIs for these companies than any college football player in the nation.
Yeah, because that sport's different. We see them. My thing, the only way it brings it back, and then we can end it there.
People are going crazy in the chat, man. They're gonna have us on here for 3 hours.
But the only thing that's gonna bring this back is when the first wave of these guys that was getting all this money start facing IRS problems, because you're talking about
someone asked that. They said, do they get a W-2? They can't get a W-2 because they're not employees.
That's where the problem is going to come, right? Because at some point in time, some lawyer, just like these kids have found these lawyers to get these injunctions for them, is going to, the NCAA is going to find somebody savvy enough to go in there and say exactly to the T what it is. I can buy that, no doubt about it.
No, he hits it right on the head. Like,
yeah,
this is actually what it was meant to have. So, coach, like, what's a local? I know y'all don't have much. What would be the local restaurant in Lorman?
Oh, I'm like I said, I'm the only coach active in social media, and I'm the only coach with an NIL. I have an NIL from Patton's. So Patton's is a restaurant there. But he did that with Felix when it first happened. That's what it was. But again, I'm a social work major. I'm not like you, nuclear physics. I don't even know why you're fooling.
Crazy. I did.
But I had no desire to be in school past my time. But these kids now have the desire to do it, because now, the quarterback from Vandy, maybe not an NFL guy, but Vandy's paying him a nice chunk of change. Yep. So the incentive to try to stay in school longer is there. But is it really good for the sport? Is it really good for him? Because at some point, if you're not being smart with that bag, it's going to run out, and then you're going to run into trouble, which is what I think will bring it all back. And then you talk about Utah. If you're on scholarship at Utah, you can go get the vehicle.
They had was it like the Dodge Ram trucks or something for all the O-linemen?
Yeah. No, for everybody on the team, you can go to the Dodge dealership, get your Dodge, whatever.
Crazy.
As long as you're on scholarship, that's part of your NIL. But the minute you're no longer on scholarship, you turn it back in, or you pay for it, that kind of thing.
Black Pilot's crazy. He said a master's degree from Vandy ain't a bad deal, though.
Oh, ain't a bad deal if he's doing that. You know what I mean?
I think he is. Like, the kid's actually, like, I want to say he's an academic All-American too. So
yeah, I'm all about it. But like you said, if a kid's in his 6th year and he's not done with the masters, what are we really doing?
Do we know? Like, okay, so let's just say, because you guys got the collective, Jackson has a collective. Do those kids get 1099s at the end of the year?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Because, like, okay, so, because, Coach, obviously, man, you work for the university, you get a W-2 every year. People don't know this. Like, in sports media, a lot of us are 1099 employees. So, Coach, like, YouTube, like, to make money off of YouTube, we're all 1099 employees. Like, YouTube sends us a taxing at the end of the year, 1099. Like, we don't get any taxes taken out when we get paid by YouTube. Coach, a lot of the writers you see in sports media, like all my stuff is 1099. How many players do you think hire CPAs?
Oh man, I mean,
Because because Coach, when I got hired on at SI, like all the SI employees are 1099. Like, so listen, I make really good money now, and that's great. But bro, when I first started getting paid, I had no idea about the whole like tax structure and everything. Because my whole life I was either a grad student or an employee. So I would get W-2s and Coach, you know, as a college student, as a grad student, you get paid. It's not the same being taxed. Bro, I got out of here, man, immediately. I was like, oh, none of these taxes are coming out. Hired a CPA. She handles all my tax stuff now. Because,
man,
Coach, you know how, man, you can get caught up with a quickness.
Chat. That's when you know you're making money, chat. You hire a CPA. Yeah, chat.
That's crazy. That's crazy. No,
that's when you know,
it's just because you ain't going to see me on the news like these old like TV stars that just haven't paid taxes in years.
IRS is coming, and you better believe when the Carson Becks of the world.
Mr. Campbell, everything, YouTube, SI, Athlon, I mean everything I have under the same LLC.
Hey,
everything.
And that's why I got mine up and running. For that same purposes. But you better believe somebody in the building at the RS is watching these names that are getting what did he get? Upwards of $5 million to go to Miami. Yeah, we need to follow that because we need our piece. You know, Uncle Sam needs his deal. Linebacker at Ohio State. Did he before he gets out in the real world, did he give us his piece of that $6 million? I mean, I couldn't fathom being 20, 21 and basically walking coach's office.
Coach, I would be in jail right now if I was just getting handed $400,000-$500,000. And I was a good kid. Coach, bro, come on, man. I would not have known what to do.
I'd be in Jamaica. There'd be a 30 for 30. What happened?
Oh, you give me a brand new sports car and $500K? Oh my God. Stop it.
Definitely 30 for 30 material.
Like, and that's why, like, part of me, like, and I get some of the bit. Listen, I'll say this: there's a group of the population, just the nation that's jealous, right? And so they spew all the like this hateful stuff about these kids, saying there's no loyalty and this and that. Bro, until you like, to me, I have more sympathy for these players nowadays than anything. Coach, how in the world am I supposed to be 18 coming out of high school and dealing with Coach? Me and you have both went to college. A lot of the people in the chat have been to college. You're moving away from home. You're going to a new spot. You're dealing with becoming a new college student. You're dealing with all these responsibilities of being an adult and forming new friendships and possibly being in a relationship, having kids. Like all this stuff is checking the box. Plus, God forbid you have a grandmother or a parent sick at home that you're going to deal with, and you just get thrown all this money, no direction. You're talking about working out, trying to be a student athlete. Coach, me and you both know the schedule to be a student athlete in today's age of college football is a 365, 24/7 job, and it is the hardest thing to balance. Plus, you're trying to balance school. And what if you're not a great student? What if you got some learning disabilities? Man, come on, man. What 18-year-old do you expect to not make any mistakes?
And then you have the option of taking your classes online, which is, I mean, that's a setup from the beginning. If you don't have, if you don't have the discipline to log on, or B, have the money to pay a Zach McKinnell to log on and do your work for you, it's a recipe for disaster. But and I'll bring it back to our level. You're talking about what you just said, a kid coming from Fuller Heights, name of my neighborhood, and getting a money order. I'm gonna date myself. Getting a money order sent to you every 2 weeks from grandmother or your mom for $50 in a box with a whole bunch of stuff that you may not eat. Those days of that stuff is long gone. So now you take the same type of kid from same neighborhood, and yeah, he's at fam, not making anything, and then he has a year, and then somebody's in his DM saying, "Hey man, come to Bluebloods University, we'll give you a scholarship check to pay your rent, and we'll give you $1,500 a month free of charge. That $1,500 is yours. Your scholarship check pays your rent, your bills. What you think that kid's gonna do? I mean, Coach Fred, man, I appreciate it. I love you. I really want to stay here, but they offer me $1,500 a month. The adult, hey man, $1,500 is not a lot of money. The kid, $1,500 on my cash app every month, I'm balling out of control, you know, and I get it. I don't like it, don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, because I'll say this: 1,500 when you're not paying for food, you're not paying for housing, you're not paying for your car.
In college, that's a lot of Mad Dog we gonna drink on the weekend.
That is a look, and I want to bring these stats up, Coach. Last year, this is just for 2024, right? 387 FCS players went to the FBS. Coach, you want to take a guess of the percentage that played at least 600 snaps at their new university?
40-ish?
19%.
Wow.
Only 19% of FCS to FBS transfers played 600 or more snaps.
Depth guys that we're getting for $1,500.
Coach, you know what percentage played less than 300 snaps?
Well, it's got to be around that same area, huh?
55%.
Wow.
55% of FCS to FBS transfers played less than 300 snaps at their new school.
That's absolutely crazy. And you think about how this thing started. It was a lot of guys that were mortgaging their 1 year to go to these places for this money or whatever. Basically 6-month rental. But now it's a little more than that. But you know, the question that I have and the research that I would like somebody to do, how many of these guys that leave on multiple years that go to these places that play less than 19%, how many of these guys do they keep or do they usher out? You know, hey man, probably hit the portal. That's probably your best bet. I would like to know that because to me, now that you're getting a kid that's playing that has multiple years, what's going to be the incentive to keep that kid and not keep that same rotating?
Nope.
You know Coach, what I mean? Does that make sense?
And this is bad. So 33% of those transfers were all conference players at the FCS level.
From where they left.
Yeah. And out of all the all-conference players, Coach, 48% played less than 300 snaps at their new school.
That makes sense. That would be the equivalent of Claude leaving us and going – and most of them aren't going to the middle of the pack or Power 5.
No.
Mortgaging his future for 6 months of $3,000. He's an all-conference. He stays here at Alcorn, and, you know, the rest is history, starting linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. But he left one of those $3,000, $1,500 a month UMass universities to come and mortgage his future. You know, I don't think a lot of kids are looking at it that way. I don't think a lot of parents are looking at it that way. Because if you're all conference, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, I think right now in this day and age, where we are at FCS HBCU, the light is a lot brighter here than going to a Toledo, a MAC school, a UMass. You have a better opportunity to get to the next level if that's what you're about. If you're good enough, if you're an all-conference SWAC player, you have a better opportunity to get to that next level than you do going to UTEP. And I'm just using that. To me, because at the end of the day, you still have the option of being able to go and play and showcase in front of every NFL team at the Legacy Bowl. You go to UTEP, and you don't make that, what's next? Now you're hoping for a pro day. You're hoping they show up.
Yep.
And I just don't think a
Or
lot of people look at that.
or you're hoping your agent has connections to get you into a bigger pro day because you've seen this. Southern Miss will go participate in Mississippi State's pro day or Ole Miss's pro day. They won't even host their own pro day, and you have to hope your agent has connections to get you in a big pro day.
And you have, because a lot of these places aren't just letting you come in anymore. Jarvion Howard goes up to Mississippi State's pro day because his agent has a connection to get him in, and then he outshines the running backs that are Mississippi State. And at that point, it's like, okay, never again, kind of thing. So, and then, we could keep this going for all hours because now you've got these NIL agents that are separate from what regular agents are for these kids. And it's just like, okay, coach, my agent wants to talk to you. Your agent? What do you mean your agent? And it's his barber or whatever. So, they have so much pulling at them. I just don't know if the good information is where it needs to be. And then it ties all back to what we said. They put all this stuff out and said, yeah, go ahead with it. But there was no, as you said, guardrails. There was no parameters. There was no rules to it. Just go do it. And we've essentially become AAA baseball, although nobody wants to call it that. I mean, that's essentially what we've become for the upper echelon AAA baseball.
FAMU has the perfect example. John Chaney, all SWAC second team, played one defensive snap last year at Colorado. Cardell Thomas, all SWAC offensive lineman, played 3 offensive snaps at Colorado. Gentle Hunt, multi-time all SWAC selection, played 33 defensive snaps and had 2 tackles at Illinois last year. Anthony Dunn goes to Toledo, first team all SWAC, All-American candidate, plays less than 200 snaps, has 25 tackles, 7 for loss, 4 sacks. Good stats for that few snaps, but play less than 200 snaps at Toledo.
I don't want to say and for what, but
no, it's for what? I'll say it. It's for what?
For a couple extra sweatsuits, off-campus living. As I told one of the kids, when you think about the off-campus living and then you think about being a college football player, how much time are you going to actually spend in that freaking apartment? Enjoyable time. Enjoyable time. I'm talking about not going there, taking a shower, enjoyable time. How much time are you going to spend there?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
And I get the frustration for fans because, I get Mr. Campbell's frustration here. What happens if all those guys come back to FAM?
Oh. That game in Jackson is probably still going in overtime, back and forth. And I would really like to talk to one of those kids when they're done and see, hey man, was it really worth it? If you had to do all over again, if you had to press rewind, would you?
Coach, Terrell Allen. Coach, they're wanting to show we did 2 years ago that we didn't talk about Terrell Allen.
He won the
Buck Buchanan.
Yeah.
He goes to Tulane, Coach, 194 defensive snaps, 22 tackles, 2.5 for loss. What would he have done on Tennessee State this year with how good they improved?
And they know where you are. They already know who you are. There's no need to go up and improve. If the tackle from A&M, if he leaves, is he at the Senior Bowl? Yeah, he's a talent, but it's all about a fit and where he goes. Does he mortgage his future and move on if he has another year? That kind of thing. Again.
There you go. Coach, okay, and listen, and I get, okay, and so I know some people are gonna be like, man, why would you leave an HBCU and go to a PWI? But I want to take it out of that realm because I look like me, Coach. If I'm picking a college right now, and I'm 28 right now, if I go back to what I was at 20, 22, 21, 20, Coach, for me, Bro, there's no chance I'm going to Toledo over FAMU.
No,
Come
not
on.
as a
Are we serious?
no.
Have you
And
been
I've
to
said that
Ohio?
before. No, I've said that before. Do
That's
you want to
crazy.
go to? And I use UMass, and UMass turned around, had a good season. Do you want to go to UMass and play in front of the biggest crowd you probably play in front of 800, or everywhere you travel, it feels like 1,000 plus people
Yeah.
are there at the hotel lobby, not the stadium. Just the college feel. Plus, it's freaking cold. It gets cold in Tallahassee, but not like
Bro,
that.
it's not Toledo. Let's let's stop. It's not
Not like
Toledo.
that.
And then also too, you got the degree aspect as well. Like FAM is one of the top public college. Like, come on, man. I refuse to I refuse to say there's any positive to go to Toledo over FAM.
And and someone did use that argument about the degree, but unless you're talking about being a doctor or a lawyer, my social work degree is the same social work degree they offer at Akron. It's the same thing.
And you have, and let's just be honest, the biggest thing was listen, man. People might say my SWAC hours are low, man. I've been around for a while now, Coach. The alumni connection you get from FAM, come on, man. It's not the same.
No, no, no. Just being in that realm, I mean, you'd be surprised at the number of people that I've met that weren't.
Shout out to Miss Whitley. We're not picking on. We can use any university. She said she's a Toledo alum. She lives in Ohio. She's like, we're gonna like all.
My bad. I didn't mean it like that. My bad.
We could
I
use
was thinking
Akron.
of MAC.
We could
I was
use
thinking
Akron.
of MAC conference, but Toledo was the first school that came to mind when I was thinking of MAC conference.
And two, I'll say this. I see Whitley and all the chats and everything. She would pick going to Jackson or FAM over going to Toledo again. All day. Her experience at her HBCU was probably way better than going to Toledo.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, we took a trip out to New Mexico to play New Mexico State. And the experience, the highlight of that experience for me was being able to see the U.S. border deal. But being out there in the mountains, a kid from Florida, I just don't know how that would work being a younger kid, you know what I mean? Yeah. For just the overall college experience, for what you get. College football is a full-time job, always has been, and that's just what it is. But to just say that, I'm going to Akron over Alcorn, that don't make sense to me. Like, tell me why.
No.
I need to know why.
No, I'm with you. And it's just, and I'll say this too, and I want to do some research on it because I don't think anyone's kind of looked at the numbers, but just off the top of my head, right? Kids that transfer with multiple years of eligibility have the success rate probably triples than kids who transfer up in 1 year, right? Because Coach, let's just be honest, and Coach and Said talked about this last night on the recruiting on the signing day show with G. He said he talked about the kids that you guys are bringing in are going to have to fight for their jobs against players that have stuck around and have their spot solidified. Yep. If Coach, you got 1 year of let's just say you're a coach. You're bringing me in, right, to play left tackle. I got 1 year left. You guys have a 3-year guy who's been waiting for his turn and building it Alcorn. Coach, every position's open. Coach, you're going to be a little bit more biased to the guy who stayed at Alcorn and grinded it out for 3 years than me, who you've only known for 2 months.
Oh, no doubt. 6 months. And then you try to make that relationship work as fast, as quick as you can. But, I've sweat with you. I've cried with you. I represent Jackson State more than.
Yeah, listen, Whitley's like me. She's got like 17 degrees, so she's been to every school on the Eastern Seaboard at this point. So, and like Mr. Campbell said, it's not just the FAMU alumni network. Coach, when you graduate from an HBCU, it's the HBCU alumni network because a Jackson alum is going to point to the FAMU degree over any other degree. And like you said, A&T, Southern, Alcorn is different. Coach, you unlock so many more doors graduating from FAMU than you do Toledo, Akron, Miami of Ohio.
I'm sitting in Drago's Tuesday night, and I have on my Alcorn deal, and these 3 guys walk in suits, and they sit across from me, and the guy starts to talk to me about what I have on, and then he starts to make jokes, and he's like, I'm just messing with you. My mom graduated from Alcorn. My dad graduated from Southern. My brother graduated from Valley. And just from that, I get ready to pay, and he's already paid for it. You know what I mean? I don't know his name. He just saw the A on my chest. It's a small conversation piece as to where if I had that Toledo on, I'm sorry, Whitney, if I had that Miami of Ohio on,
we got to get out of the state of Ohio and the Northern Illinois logo.
I'm not sure how that would have went, or if that even would have went. You know what I mean? And I had steak and shrimp, a lemon drop martini, so it was about a $70 bill that he just picked up because of the logo that I had on in a short conversation. So I think that a lot unlocks more, like you said, and that's just on the social aspect. But again, kids want stuff, they like stuff, I get it, but are you really going to hold on to those 3 travel uniforms compared to the other stuff? You know, my deal. I changed it as quick as I possibly could.
She said,
not realizing
we got to make a note, Coach, for future shows. No more Toledo references.
No
we got to
Toledo.
find another school to pick on. We can pick on like Colorado State or something.
Yeah, no Toledo.
Something like that. Tulane, something like that. Maybe not Tulane. They actually got a pretty good degree
New Mexico.
program. Yeah, someone like that.
Yeah,
I'm with that. And yeah, I mean, listen, it is. Yeah, okay, yeah. So he. D-Love, I'm sorry. We try to use Valley as much as possible. He said he likes Toledo because we forgot about UAPB.
All right, man. I'm gonna stay off that one as well.
Oh man, I'll cry it. But yeah, I mean, it's just God. I mean, this conversation could go on forever, man. Like, there's so much stuff to break down here, and it's just I do think
arguments.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is, man, I really wish there was a way for these kids to be more educated about their decisions where they could get stats like this. And I think, listen, T-Jack and Coach Dan Jackson at South Dakota State, Coach T-Jack at PV, man, I had them on the show this week. We did interviews. Both of them said head coaches and assistant coaches have to be more honest. And I want to say it was T-Jack that said this. He said coaches are so scared that they're going to get, be the black sheep of the profession for telling the truth to these kids. And we got to pull the stats in front of them and be like, are you really going to go to this school that, one, doesn't turn out NFL players as much as we do, doesn't have the notoriety? Like he said, you need to lay out all the facts before you make this decision. If you want to go get your check, go get your check. But at least before you go get your check, you're informed of the decision you're about to make.
Yep. Understand what you're doing.
And I do think there are some coaches that are scared to jump out of the limb and say that. Because one, they want to leave the door cracked in case that player wants to come back. And sometimes being too honest with the player shuts that door, locks it, takes the door handle off, all that. But we do have to be honest with some of these guys.
Got to stand for it, man. You gotta stand on it. If I'm at UAPB, my bad, D. But I'm using y'all only because you lost the best player in this conference to where do you go to?
Oklahoma,
ECU?
I want to say
Oklahoma. You lost the best
wide receiver
conference, to Oklahoma, to OU. Now, if he goes there and it doesn't work, I get it. Come on back. But at that point, pride, all that other stuff comes into play. But my whole thing is, he went for a bag. You're doing what you do. I understand where you are. I get it. But it's not like OU is challenging for a national championship or whatever. But I get why you did it.
Coach, they lost their quarterback to Lamar.
Again, I understand why he did it. I'm not faulting him. No, the receiver. I'm not faulting him. But I understand why you did it. But I hope in all that it works out for that kid, because that kid was on a track to be the
NFL.
The next Jerry Rice. Yeah.
NFL
the next
caliber
Jerry Rice.
receiver.
As well as the quarterback.
And that's what he said.
It was internal things or not.
like he gets going to get a P4 opportunity, but coach Lamar.
Yeah, that's to me, that's, I mean,
And I get he graduated from UAPB, but Lamar?
yeah, I know, because I mean, I can be honest. I mean, we talked to the kid, tried to get him once he got in the portal, tried to get him down for a visit, but the time that we tried to get him for a visit, he was like, Coach, I can't. I'm walking across the stage that weekend. You know, big deal for my family, big deal for me. Fully understand it. Fully understand it. And then I think that next week is when Lamar got involved, and they had a little more collective money, so to speak.
And also, he's from Texas, right?
Yeah. Then we were
so
willing to mortgage off for him at that time. So it's just one of those deals. I get it. But to me, Lamar, yeah, FCS to FCS.
Yeah.
It's not like leaving UAPB going to Oklahoma. It ain't the same.
No, it's not. But man, we're gonna wrap it up here, man. 2 hours. We kind of needed it, man. We've been slacking. It's been a month since the live show. Coach has been recruiting. We wanted to get them through National Signing Day. I've been at the Shrine Senior, all this traveling too, man. Might make it my way up to the combine. We'll kind of see. Might be able to make that work, man. But me and Coach are gonna get back on our grind, man. At least a live show a week, maybe 2. So we'll be in touch about that in terms of time and everything like that, man. But listen, hit the like button, subscribe, check out interviews with Prairie View A&M head coach Tremaine Jackson, South Dakota State head coach Dan Jackson, and me and Coach are going to get the Coaches Lounge fired back up again. Some real special guests for that. Yes, Jared, I will be at the Legacy Bowl. Coach might be. He's going to try to swing it. Okay, so Coach is going to be there. I'm going to be there. Listen, man.
I still haven't heard back from them about us doing the watch deal.
Yeah. Guys, we're gonna try to play something real special in terms of a live show at the Legacy Bowl. So man, make sure to stay tuned for that. But man, I've been to the Legacy Bowl every single year, so I'm not letting my streak die. I think me, Emery Hunt, and like one other person are the only media that can say we've been at the Legacy Bowl every year since it's been invented or created or launched. I'm going to keep my streak going, and I'm going to say this: this is by far the best roster that they've ever had.
I was there
the Legacy Bowl.
So I got to put together a streak. I was there last year. I got to put together a streak.
Yeah, so I won't miss it for anything, man. They do a hell of a job in terms of media access, stuff like that. Hopefully it ain't as hot as it was last year. Hot as hell last year. Hot as shit. But we'll see if it's that hot. And also, they didn't schedule it on Mardi Gras this year, thank God. They scheduled it on like Fat Tuesday last year. It was stupid. Traffic was dumb. But, guys, like button, subscribe, man. For Coach Fred, myself, the Blue Bloods. Go ahead.
Hey, one thing. I want to give a shout-out to couple former guests of the show, Mike and Marquise Bouncy, being named to the 26 Hall of Fame possible inductee list. Those guys are, fans of the show, and they'll be back on in the lounge. But I thought that was kind of cool, being that the Super Bowl is right down there, to make that finalist list for some guys that's been on the show. So,
yeah.
Shout out to them.
Definitely shout out to them, guys. But me and Coach will be back next week, man. Y'all have a hell of a weekend. And until next time, man, we out for now.